So for this program today, the flow today we'll be working on, we want to share really what is UX, because after taking the analysis of everyone that registered, we discovered that about 80% are on the basic level. So it's very important for us to tell people what UX is, what UI is, and how UX is not really UI, but like a sub of UX. Then we can also, we're going to also tell about the similarities, differences, and a couple of real life examples. Common tasks of a UX designer. You end up being a UX designer. What are the kind of responsibilities that you'll be faced with? And the objective, the benefits, and also to share with you some of the tools we use daily to achieve our progress. And also for the next class, it will be 80 or 90% practical. But for this, it will be more of like sharing the real knowledge so we know what we're going to be facing. So for the practical classes from next weekend, we're going to touch on user research. We've been hearing about this, but we're going to see a real life demonstration on how to conduct a successful US research, how to work with informations. Of course, companies will just give you information. So how you lay them on whatever product you're trying to design is up to you. So how to work with this information, so we're going to touch them next class. The design principles and visual designs, we're going to know more about this on the practical level. So it's another advice. On our next time, it will be very, very, very advisable for everyone to come in with their laptops for the persons that are using phones today, because we're going to be sharing our screens and we can pick anyone to just quickly send the link of what they are doing. We want to see what you're doing, right? And then the third weekend will be prototyping. When you're done with your solutions, we want to see how people tend to see this on their devices and how it's responsive, right? Because the idea of doing these things is for you to end up giving showing a solutions that whomever you're sharing this to will be able to have a good feel of what the end product will eventually be. So also how to interact with different pages, your buttons and all that, the events and all that. So we're going to touch that. And also the testing part of it. We're going to see more of those in the second practical class. And then for the third one, we're going to talk about collaboration and communication, and also knowledge of technology as well as continuous learning. We want to tell you how we did it, because we didn't just come in and just depend on what we know, right? So every day there are a lot of things we tend to improve. What I know today, if you meet me in the next 1 week or next 1 month, you can't meet me the same. So there are things we do at the background for us to be improving. So we also want to share that with you. Okay. So we're going to be talking about UX today. Of course, UX stands for user experience, and sometimes it's been referred to as USD, which is the user experience design. And US does not really mean just about mobile products, right? There are a lot of things concerned that US is related to. Like if you're trying to use a washing machine and you see some buttons, right? You see some little screen there. I would want you to know that there is actually a user experience designer that actually designed that little dashboard, that little stuff. So it's not about just mobile phones and web applications. Anything that has to do with a user, what they feel, the experience they get whenever they try to touch a product, right? It's actually what is referred to UX. So most of our smartwatches, smart devices at home, our our gadgets and our fridges and all that. So whenever you press a button, what happens? It's what people sat down when you were not there before they launched the entire product, for people to be able to understand what happens. If I click this button, what's the next thing that appears on the little screen? Even if it's just white and black, right? So even if it's white and black screen, but whatever happens is actually what user experience is. And it refers to the overall experience, satisfactions that the user has while interacting with the product, system, or services. And if you look at the picture by the side, the user experience is like an umbrella that covers a lot of things, right? So for you to get a successful user experience, if you want your users to be able to be happy with whatever your product is, you should be able to consider a lot of things: information, architecture, the human factor, sound design, interaction design, human computer design, visual designs, and a lot of other components that actually makes up your UX. Now, what is UI? UI is actually the interface, what you see, right? The experience is how you feel about it. If I click a button, how do you want the event to be? That's the experience. But you see that button you're looking at, that's actually the interface. So the interface refers to the visual element, interactive components, and overall design of a product, system, or application that user interactive. Right now, we have some interactive PDF. So we don't just sound like UX and UI is just based on people who want to end up being building applications for mobile phones or for the web, right? Even those people that do presentations, like if you're going to, there are some presentations where you're bidding for a project. You want to go there with an interactive PDF. I don't know how many of you know interactive PDF. So sometimes those PDF, they act like a web page itself. You try to hover on a particular icon and you see some pop-up on a PDF. So interaction and then user interface needs to be very presentable. If you look at our presentation now, we're happy with this for today, but this is not the best presentation. Someone else can come and try to make something more interactive, more better, right? So interface is actually what you see. If you look at the picture by the side, we can see graph here. All of these things was being all of these things was not just there. It is someone that sat down and looked at, okay, let's use a line graph to be able to expatiate on the revenue or the profit in 2020, right? And the price plan, there is nothing wrong if I just put 2.5 million or 1.8 million. There's nothing wrong there. But because we want people to be able to put their eyes more on the value than the write-up, now the user interface will decide to make the background this way. So that's what the primary goal of the user interface is. They just designed to create anything that has to do with the user, right? What they say. Next now, I would want to call on Goodness to take this UX is not UI as a very experienced UX UI designer should be able to tell us more about, just to clear us on, because there are a lot of people confusing UI to be UX or UX not to be UI or whatever it is. So goodness.
Okay. Hi everybody. I'm going to yes, I do need to share my screen. Just a minute. Okay. Okay, so this is an example of what UI is, right? So UI is basically what you see. User interface is the interface that you're seeing and you're going to be interacting with. That is what UI basically means. While UX is the overall user experience of an app, right? So as a UX designer, you are thinking about the entire experience that a user is going to have on a website or an application, right? So you're thinking, once a client reaches out to you to like design an application or a website, right? You're thinking, okay, so what problem are we solving? Right? You want to understand the problem and be able to give the right solution to the problem through design. So let me show this um part. So as a UX designer, right, you're empathizing with your user. You want to understand your user. You want to know exactly the problem that you're facing and how well to design a screen for them to solve the problem. And also you want to define it. You want to draw out the empathy map, you want to draw out the user journey, the user flow, the site map, and prototype and testing. Basically, that's all that makes up like a good website or a good mobile application. Okay, so I'm going to share this as well now. Okay, so now, as Ibuso has rightly said, you want to think, okay, once they click on this, where do they go to, and all like that. So as a UX designer, you're thinking, how best do we, this is a mobile screen design that I made, right? So click, you want, okay, so let's take this screen for example now. Now you want to put like a button where the user can easily find it. That's to create a very good user experience. Now from this screen now you can see that, okay, there is a very obvious button that tells you to create an account, right? So you click on create an account. Once you click on create an account, what screen does it go to next? It shows you the screen where you can create the account. Once you're done creating the account, where do you go next? You sign in and you're on the app, right? From this app now, where do you go to next and everything like that. So that's what you're thinking of as a UX designer. So UX is basically like the overall user experience of an application, while UI is just the user interface, right? User interface, just like what we have here. A UI designer is just designing the interface, while the UX designer is thinking of the overall user experience of the application, thinking of the user, thinking of basically everything about the entire application or the entire design and website. Okay, so let's go back to the slide. That's basically UI and UX. UX is more like UI is under UX. So there is no good UI, there is no good UX without a good UI. So it's more like interwoven in a way, right? Um, so a UX designer oversees designing user flow. For example, what are the steps that a visitor would take to sign up for a newsletter? How would they know if they have been successful in signing up for a letter and the likes? So a user UX is more like the overall user experience of an application, basically. Okay, so similarities between UX and UI. I hope I'm not going too fast though. Am I?
You're good. You're
Uh,
good. Yeah.
okay. Okay. So basically, similarities between UX and UI. Both UI and UX have their goals as customer satisfaction, right? The both of them are thinking about the user. They create, think, and implement to please the user and create user-friendly products. The final product is for customer interaction and pleasing. Basically, UX and UI complement each other and make a project look alluring, basically. So we have like the differences and the similarities between UX and UI now. Okay, so a UX designer thinks interaction design, right? So how would the user interact with this application? How would they interact with this website? Where do they go from here to here? How are we solving this problem and all like that? So they also create the user pathway, meaning the user journey, right? Okay, so if we are trying to mm, let me think. If we are trying to create a website to help people find mentors, right? Okay, so as a UX designer now, the goal of this website is to help users that come on this website to find mentors. What we want to do is to, on the landing page or the hero section, right, we want to put like, we want the user to be able to easily find mentors right from there. So we want to put a button to, okay, to show them to find mentors right on the landing page, on like the hero section of the website, right? So we are thinking about how best to ease users experience on the website. Plan in information architecture, basically the same thing. Expert in wireframing, prototyping, and research. So as a UX designer, you're also doing research, doing I don't want to go too deep, but then you're doing competitive analysis, right? Okay, so let's say MeQuest, for example, now we are designing our website, right? Okay, so we are also looking at other websites that do the same thing, that give that help provide mentors to users, right? So we are checking other websites to see what they're doing, right? Because user is good to design products that are similar. Why? Because user use this other product as well, so you don't want your design to like be out of the blues and users are unable to interact with it, right? So that's all about user UX design. UI design is mostly like visual design, choosing colors, what you see basically. Plan, visual aesthetics, aspects in markup, graphics, and layouts. Right. So on the other side, you can see these differences: color theory, typography, design patterns and the likes for UI, while for UX, you're doing product strategy, you're doing user research. User research basically means you're trying to understand the users that are going to use this website or an app, right? Okay, so taking MeQuest, for example, again, if we are designing a website for MeQuest now, we know that, okay, our kind of users are people that are looking for mentors, people that are not like experts and all. So you can ask them questions like, okay, so if you want to find a mentor, how best do you think we can do this and all like that. So you're throwing out questionnaires to get real feedback to be able to inform your design decision as a UX designer. Information architecture, basically how the website is going to go from one screen to another and the likes. Testing and iterating, that's like testing your website after you're done designing and all like that. Similarities between the two: empathy. So a UX designer empathize with its user, with their user, while a UI designer also empathize with their user. Collaboration, they collaborate with each other because the two are kind of like interwoven, right? Design thinking, the both of them are thinking design and how best um to do the design to make sure that it fulfills the needs of both the business and the user, right? Prototyping, basically how the screen go from one screen to another. I think I've talked about UI design. Color theory. Okay, so as a UI designer, because UI is more like visuals and what you see. You study colors, you know the meaning of colors. You don't want to design a banking app and use colors like green and yellow because they don't strike emotions, right? You want to use colors like blue because blue strikes trust, right? So you want to understand colors, you want to understand typography. Typography also means a lot in design. Typography can either make or mar your design. You want to understand typography as well. You want to understand design patterns. You want to stay up to date with design trends and the like. Yeah, so that's it about differences and similarities between UI UX. Okay, so yeah, basically the skill sets you need to have as a UI UX designer. You need to be able to draw out the information architecture of like a website. If you're designing a website, basically like the user journey map of the website. The user is going from this screen to this screen, just like the cube clay design that we saw just now. You can say that the UX of the information architecture is kind of like somehow, because at a point you get lost in the whole experience of the website, right? I know they want users to get excited, but it can get overwhelming, and you have to like consider this when you're like designing a website, right? So you want to be able to well, one of the skill sets you need is being able to design the information architecture, to how to perfectly design your interface to showcase information in the right way to users, right? Um, you one of the skill sets as well is design thinking, right? Your design thinking level has to be like top notch, right? Because you have to think um how users are going to go through the app, the user flow, and the likes, right? Another one is empathy, right? You have to be able to empathize with the users. You have to be able to know the problem that the users are facing while they are interacting with your website and how you'll be able to solve it, right? So you have to be able to empathize with them. Empathy means like being able to understand your users, right, and being able to feel their pain so that you'll be able to design the right solution for them, basically. Another one is competitive analysis, right? Oh my god, come in, let me okay, so another one is okay, so
Yeah, we can hear you.
okay, I'm back now. Okay, so another one is I was saying competitive analysis. Okay, so you have to be able to do a competitive research for any website that you're going to design for, right? You have to be able to um go search, check other websites, see what they're doing. Why are you doing this? Because most of your users are using these other websites, right? So you want them to have a similar experience when they're interacting with your own website. You don't want your own website to look out of the blues because they would not understand it. No user wants to go through a new learning curve just because they want to use your website. No one will do that. This does not mean that you should not be creative with your design, but make sure that you're adding elements of similarities from like other uh, competitors, right? Just because they are using other products, right? So you have to be able to do this as well. Another one is communication. You have to be able to communicate well when you're, because you will have to show your designs to like stakeholders and like your clients. You have to be able to communicate your design in the right way. This is why I use this color. This is why I use this typeface. This is why this image. This is why I'm using this image, right? You have to be able to communicate your design well to stakeholders and be able to make design decisions, because there is something we call orga center design. I don't know if you've heard of something like that before. So if you're not able to communicate your design well to like your clients, they can just tell you, oh no, I like red, let's use red, right? And red is not going to convert. Red is going to give this no this feeling of how would I put it, is it nostalgia feeling now when you're using it for like a website. I know that you would barely see any website that they're going to use red because of what red conveys, right? And most of these things, they are real, right? So you don't want to use that kind of color. And if you're using blue and your client wants you to use red and you're unable to actually explain why red is not good, right? You're going to end up designing an organ center that is not going to convert. And at the end of the day, they're going to say, oh, this is the person that designed this website. How many people do you want to explain to that? Oh, it is organ center design. This is what the client wants, right? So you have to, your communication level has to like be top notch. You have to be able to communicate well. Um, and okay, another one is, what else have I not covered? Wireframing and prototyping, right? Okay, so you should be able to like draw out. I think I'm hearing someone. You should be able to draw out wireframes for design, basically, before you go to high fidelity design, right? You have to be able to draw out wireframes. At this point, you're not really focusing on like the colors and the typeface and everything. You're really focusing on the layout and how the user is going to like interact with the website as a whole, right? And prototyping is going from one screen to another, how the experience is going to be, basically. So these are the skill sets you want to have as a UI UX designer. Thank you. Let me know if you have any questions.
Okay. Thank you so much, Goodness. I think while she was talking, or while Goodness was talking about this particular slide, she already finished everything concerning the next slide. It means a brain, like there's everything in it. However, just to brush up on responsibilities of UI and UX, some of the common tasks are to conduct user research, developing user personnel based on target customers, just like she said, building wireframes, performing user testing to validate design decisions and identify problems, to collaborate with stakeholders, UI designers, and developers. So these are responsibilities you should know as a UX designer. Of course, it's a covering song. But if you know you want to focus more on the UI, you should really know how to organize your page layouts, right? You want to work with your margins properly. You want to work with your paddings properly. You want to work with your alignment properly. We're going to touch all of these things on a practical level, right? So you want to choose your color. Every company has a color, they have a color palette they use, right? Some of these colors you can get from their logo. The funny part is that some businesses will tell you that I want you to do this, and all they will give you is their logo. So you're the one to form your color palettes from their logo, and then we're going to teach you how to touch a particular image and get the color code. So also, as you're trying to come up with the color palette, you're trying to see if it goes or not. Sometimes I think some companies will allow you to go a bit like to give a different shade, right? So some of the elements that you'll be using as a UI designer, you should know how to design. So you should even know how to use Illustrator, right? So that you can be able to come up with good button ideas, come up with how your toggles should be, your drop-down menus, how you want it to be. I think if you spend more time in doing still graphics, you'll be able to excel very well in focusing on UI. That's why most companies, bigger companies, just look for a graphic designer, employ them to be their UI designers, right? Because for you to be a very good graphic designer, you must have spent most of your career time working with still graphics. So you can be able to excel more, like to work on the UI. And then, of course, you should be able to make high fidelity wireframes and layouts to show what the final design will look like, right? And you can work closely with developers to convert design into working products. So most times, the UI UX designers are like they are very close to the developers itself, and that's why developing any digital product, you work as a team, unlike those of us that are full stack, like we're just everywhere. So we talk to ourselves as a UI and we talk to ourselves as a US and we still talk to ourselves as a front-end developer. We still come back again to talk to ourselves as a backend. We still talk to ourselves as the database. So in that case, there's no really flow, there's no collaboration. But however, the beauty of it is you can just pick one and then you can focus your entire maybe you can develop more skill set on just doing one thing at a time. So it's also very good for you to know your place as a UI UX designer. So you don't go to um, um, seek to be employed as a UI designer and tell them that you are UI and US and they decide to use you, right? Just know the responsibility. Sometimes a company might just need a UI designer, but if you tell them, if based on your responsibility during the course of the interview, if you can be able to convince them that you are both, I think it's if they are also looking for US at that time, they can employ you to do both and then of course increase your pay brackets. So it's good for us to know this responsibility. We're going to have our materials for you, for anyone to be able to refer to this. And there's also the web where you can always try to search on responsibility of a UI, responsibility of a UX, so that you can get more insight. Now, what are the objectives? UI designers form a visual hierarchy for users to understand it. So the objective of UI is this slide is not even different from what we've been talking about since. But just for us to pinpoint again, typeface, these are fonts, right? There are some websites, especially food food delivery website, I think they always have this coily fonts. They must have one part that have this coily font, right? So you don't go for a very serious business website or web application and decide to put these script fonts. So you should know when to use a particular font. And like I said earlier, some businesses, to avoid this kind of problem, they have a brand guide. And what the brand guide has, it has all their colors, their logos. Some brand guide will even tell you the size of logos you should use on their website. So it means you cannot increase the logo, no matter what you want to build for them. You cannot increase the logo more than what is on that brand guide, because that brand guide is being guided by a legal party. So it's like, I don't know, I'm not a legal person, but it's something, it's like a policy for the business, right? So you must follow the objective face it, and you know how to use it. Color scheme, of course, is a color palette you use in your website. At least you should be able to check, make sure that this is approved by your clients, not your user or whoever that has employed you to and be able to do UI for them. You should know this. The layouts and frames, you should also understand what layouts are, right? And try to make them consistent. Also, iconography, like if you're trying to design maybe a page that has to do with, also share with us, and you want people to be able to also reach out to your social pages. In those days, like before, not in those days, not that old. So before now, if you're building a site, you just put Facebook, or you put email, like you just put email, and then you put info at thecompanydomain.com. Then you come to phone number, you now put phone number or telephone number. Right now, we have icons that everyone, almost everybody knows that when they see the icon of a phone, they know that, okay, this is like their phone number. Because, of course, it's being followed by a phone number. You'll see the icon for email. So you also want to try to use icons in whatever you're trying to deliver. And it would be nice for me to still remind us that this training is not just for people who want to end up to be UX UI. Even if you're doing things as simple as flyers, if you're doing things as simple as proposals, if you're bidding for a contract, whatever you're designing, whatever you're putting out there for people to read, you should look at how this stuff. You might think people are not taking notes, but I can tell you that I've seen scenarios where people who can deliver the job, because their presentation is poor, they give the contract to people that cannot even deliver the job because their presentation is good. And those companies that cannot deliver the job will end up giving it to some other people. So the reason is, when your presentation is poor, people tend to take you as though you're not serious. The next one is the objective of the UX design, just like we've been talking about UX, USing. The factors there is seeking the problem. You need to know the problem. You need to be considerate to your users. Of course, you know your stakeholders. You want to, if you're going to be working on a kind of mobile project that you know that both old people will be able to use. Let me say you're trying to design a app that is going to help let me say it's like your clients. It's, you want to build an app that is going to communicate with both people who would need care, will be able to come to the app and then just quickly search for people that are available to give care for social hours. For example, you know that people that will be using this app, most of them will be from 45, right, to 50 and above. Now, when those type of people are part of your stakeholders, you're going to make your funds to be able to, you're not going to make your funds very small, right? So in this way, you're trying to consider your users. If you're going to be using an app that you know that it is possible that people who cannot see would use your app, then you should be able to put accessibility functions on your poster. And remember, you must think, as a UX designer, you must think for both the developers as well. Because the tricky part about most of these apps you see, you might even be thinking that the developers did so much work. They didn't do so much work, to be honest with you. All they did was to look at what the UX presented to them, and they tried to transcribe or to transform whatever the UX and the designing team gave to them to a working code. So if you skip to put accessibility features on your prototype, they won't put that function, and the clients can, like, they can defend themselves while they skip so parts, right? So whatever you're doing, when you do, you're trying to consider the kind of people that will be using your app. If you're going to be doing something, you're going to be building a website for people who would come and buy food. You should know that this is not just for children, both old and young. They need this food, right? So also one of the objective of UX design is to create, of course, creating a prototype is like steady. You want to sketch share. Most of your, before you come, I'll give you an advice, before you try to come up with a prototype, you should be able to sketch. Now, there are applications that will tell you about sketching and sketching. I personally, I think I don't know if it's professionally accepted, but I like to draw my wireframes. I like to do it the old way. You draw your stuff so you can clean, update before you even start using applications to draw. Right now, we have a lot of devices that allow you to use digital pen. So you just take your pen and start looking, okay, this is the first screen, this is the home screen. Where am I going to put my flash screen? Where am I going to put my button? So these are skills that you need to know. It is what you've come up with, then you can share it with the other branches of your designing team, right? Then testing conveniences for disability, you should be able to know how convenient your testing will be, right? For of usability, you want to know how it looks on the iPad. You should know how to set up prototypes for your client, because sometimes someone can talk to you, or you yourself, you have an idea and you're looking for an angel investor to invest on your idea. You cannot just go and tell someone about an idea just because you know it will get money, and you're not able to convince your investors or your angel investors that, okay, this is what I want to bring, this is what I want to deploy, and it's going to cost like $100,000, for example. Nobody will want to be, but if you can be able to make a prototype of how the entire system will work and how they would be able to use it on different devices, even right now, people can be able to, even like you're trying to build an app, but you can be able to have a display of it on even smartwatches, right? You're going to do a lot. So in all of this, you should be able to know how convenient your testing or whatever will be. You should also be able to create facades and all that. So the benefit, of course, we have benefits of UI/UX for both IT professionals and also for business professionals. So for IT professionals and business professionals, of course it will improve user satisfaction, right? Sometimes if you observe, for most of our people, most of the people that register for this program, they are based in Africa, right? So let me come down to Nigeria. If you look at the way the GTB mobile app is today, if you were using GTB mobile app like 5 years ago or 4 years ago, you'll be able to at least acknowledge with me that they've done so much work, like so much work. And how did they do this work? Even before they improved their website, I know someone personally, based on the fact that she is learning, she did a GTB, she redesigned the GTB interface, right? And she put it on Twitter, and she had a lot of comments, she had a lot of so many target, like a lot of audience were like, you did a great job, and so many things. She just did it out of what she felt like, okay, let her work on something. But I can tell you that when GTB improved their application, they didn't actually add that to the team of people that actually developed it. But I'm pretty sure that they looked at it and get one or two information. So that's the idea of improved user satisfaction. You can be able to do something in an MVP, right? Something like, your ideas is very crazy, but you just bring out something for people to use. That was what GTB did. And then while people are using, you can then call a team of designers, or you yourself, you can now start working on how the user experience will be. You now work on a complete prototype, the user interface, user experience, and start testing it. If you're very okay with it, convert it, like I said before, convert it. Sure, let me even tell you, building an application you can build a complete mobile application in 1 week. I'm not even talking about low code and no code now. I'm talking about a real normal iOS and Android application, because there are so lot of platforms that can help you. There are a lot of templates that are there. There are a lot of source code that you can copy, change things, and your app is ready. And it's going to even be approved because all the rules and everything are being followed, right? So one of the benefits of UI UX is that while your other product is there live, you can then sit and take time and to see how you can improve your users of your application or your website, right? Then, of course, higher user engagement. If your UI and your UX is good, there will be a lot of user engagement. Even most of our the banking app we have now, a lot of people opened GTB bank account, not because of GTB was too good, but it was because it was so easy to make transfer with GTB bank. And that was how people even left some other banks and just opened with GTB. I'm saying GTB too much. Okay. So increase usability. Before I continue, if you have any question, please raise your hand, right? So I can always pause and then call you for your question. We also have increased usability, of course, that's what I just said, enhanced brand perception. For sometimes, even there are a lot of logos that are out there, some kind of products, they start like I said, um, and where I am, there are a lot of people that jump into building websites like 10 years ago when they just use HTML, CSS, not even JavaScript. They just use just with the same CSS and HTML and do whatever they want to do. And it's ID. So many sites today is just horrible because they started on time. We normally say, I don't want to speak that language, but there's a saying that says, who started first or blah, blah, blah. It's not, it doesn't matter if that's the person that makes the best move, right? So back to enhanced brand perception. So with UI UX, you can be able to redesign what you're having already as your brand. You can also reduce development costs. Very, very important. Very, very important. I can tell you, if you have your UI and your UX already perfect, you can get just two more persons, one to work on your front end, one to work on your back end to build your complete products. Why? Because the UX will tell you what UX, especially when we start using our tool for this program, you will see that you can design something and you can see all the code concerning that your design is already very feasible for any developer to use. So all we do is that we go and look at your design, we start picking components, we look at this component, we look at the code that is around it. And there are a lot of prototyping tools right now that you can even write conditional statement. You copy the codes and you copy everything, and then so making a good UI and UX will actually reduce the development cost of your products, right? Then, of course, competitive advantage and effective communication and collaboration. I can stay here, I can design an app, and I can tell someone in maybe Ghana to be able to look at what I've designed, right? And tell me what they think. They can also be able to look at my design and they can write some comment on it. They can also edit what I've done. So because of UI UX, like I can tell 10 years ago, right? By the grace of God, I've been in IT for over 10 years. So 10 years ago that I know about this, I did not hear any, I don't know if there was Figma at that time, but there was nothing like UI US tools that I know of. So most of the things was done this way. You can write, draw, and then we just start developing. And we were still able to manage to do something that we're not proud of today. But we're able to do some kind of interaction between some kind of simple web-based application or website, right? But now, because of UI UX, now everything is done professionally. We can have communication. We can have people that collaborate. So that's one of the benefit. That's one of the benefits. Now back to our design tool. This is where everything will start from. So just to touch on it, on all of it, but our major software we'll be using throughout this class will be Figma. However, Photoshop is very important, but it's more for still designs, pictures, because I can tell you that I've worked with clients that they don't even have pictures to start with, right? And there are some that will just give you picture and all the pictures are square shaped, and you want to make some slide, and of course slides are normally landscape. So how do you cut this picture? You cannot be writing code to cut picture. You cannot even just carry your picture directly and put it in your UI. Sometimes there are some pictures that you need to work on, and that's where you use something like Photoshop. Photoshop is just here, but there are other applications that you can use in working on your pictures, right? You can increase the contrast, you can even convert. If you're going to be working with a logo for a website or for a mobile application, you're not going to use a PNG photo, right? You're not going to use a PNG, and the company will give you, don't worry, when you guys start doing project, you're going to see a lot of people that will just send you in JPEG photo as their logo, and you're asking them that can they give you the transparent version, and they're telling you what is transparent, and you're giving them the format, and they're telling you that they've not even heard of that word before. So with this, you need to be exposed to things like Photoshop so that to you can be able to work on images and still graphics photo that they will give to you. And Azure RP, it's a prototyping system that also allows you to do your design and all that, but it has more features as it allows conditional. While you're designing, you can add conditions to whatever you're designing. So you want to say, supposing you put a text box, you're going to say if the text box is empty, the button for submission should be disabled. You can imagine that you're trying to build just a prototype for people to be able to see what the developers will eventually develop, but you're also giving them the feel of how it will work, right? So we also have AI. That's not artificial intelligence anymore. That's Adobe Illustrator, right? So this is used for icon. For the people at the other part, they know Corel Draw. So Corel Draw is like, or AI is like Corel Draw. So the same thing you do with your Corel Draw, you can use it to make icons, you can use it to make logos. If you don't want to use icons that are open source, you can make your own icons yourself. I've seen some websites where their icons, they do it themselves and they try to make the icon with the shape of their logo. So if they want to put phone, maybe phone call, they put the icon, the symbol for phone on top of the way their logo is shaped, right? It's just their way. So if you're going to be tasked to do something, you should know how to use Adobe Illustrator. We will time because of time, I will not be able to open all of these softwares and show you. But eventually, if after our training you're faced with things like this, we can always help you. That's the idea of mentorship, right? So we have Protopie as well. We have Sketch. Sketch is what you use in drawing. Just you want to draw your wireframe, you want to draw different, you want to see how the home page and how you're going to put your layouts and all that. So this will help you draw the stuff. Then we have Adobe XD. So Adobe XD is, I started with Figma, jumped to Adobe XD, right? And they are the same thing. The reason why it's good for you to have an idea of it is because some companies up to today, they don't like Figma. I don't know, but some companies you would have the option to work with Adobe XD, right? But they do the same thing. The same way you try, I tried both. The same way you draw, you put your components, you try to make the interactions. It's almost the same, just very little things that I can say is a difference, right? But Adobe XD is almost the same thing as Figma. Figma is what we'll be using because Figma will help you design everything from scratch to finish. Your prototyping, collaborating with people to be able to do responsive designs that can align, right? That can respond based on the device you're trying to test it with. And Figma today, it's like it has so many features. So for you to get started with Figma, since that's what we'll be using from our next class, just a quick rundown on what for you to go to for you to sign up to have an account. For those of us that don't have an account, you visit figma.com, right? And then all you need to do is to get started for free. because most of us that are at the beginner level, you don't want to start paying money for stuff. And Figma is free, and not just free. The beauty about Figma is that it's web-based, right? So you can start your design from your browser. You can start even sending your design copy on your phones for you to see how it works directly from your browser. So you can also install, I'm not sharing all of my window, but you can be able to install Figma on desktop as well. It's the same feel. Whatever happens online is the same thing that happens on your Figma. So to get started, you just sign up. If you don't have an account, and another beauty of Figma is that you can just start from your Google account. So if you have a Google account, they have a guide that they complicate to it, so you can just sign up. And once you create your account, of course, everything is very easy, everything is straightforward. And when you're done, you log in. I don't know. Um, then I'll use the next 3 minutes just to run down on what the film itself can do. So once you sign on how to what the frames are, because if we start doing that, eventually we'll spend more than the time that we've placed. But we encourage everyone to sign up to Figma before the next class, right? And if you're having any difficulties, you also let us know. We'll be able to guide you through 24/7. So we're done with the objective, we're done with the benefits, and we're done with the tools, and then the summary of today's class. So in summary, UI is more tangible. You directly interact with the UI. US is more abstract. It incorporates a user's environment, mood, and context. Of course, UI is what you can see and sorry, I almost said what you can see and feel. It's not what you can feel. It's just what you can see, right? If I come to a website, I can see the logo, I can see the menu bar, I can see so many things. But what I cannot see is if I click on the menu, what should happen? What page should it take me to? Those are the kind of things that I cannot see. If we're working with MeQuest, I use this as an example so that we just understand clearly. Now, if we're on this website, I know that there's a logo here, right? I know that there are some tabs here and there's a button here to register for the program. What I don't know is the experience is when I click on this button, what should happen? Should the registration form pop on the screen or should we direct them to another page? There are some sites that you want to be very stingy with your users. You don't even want them to go to another page. You want them to fill a form. Your website does not have this form, but you don't just want them to just go to another page because you're scared you might not get them back to your page. So do you want to put your form as a pop-up? Right? So if you're going to be putting a form as a pop-up, you decide on what to do. That's the experience part of it. But anything that has to do with AI is for there to be a button first. There should be a button. So the button is the UI part of it. So when I click here, what happens shouldn't be your problem if you're just a UI. Your own is to do the button. The UX person is to now start thinking of, okay, when I put the button, when the UI puts a button here, what do I do? There's a chart here. What do you want people to see? The UI is just to know that in their design, they're going to put this symbol here, right? It's not in their place to decide on what happens. If you click, what happens? So if I click, what happens is left for the UX. So that's why we're saying that the first summary is that the UI is tangible, right? While the UX is abstract. Generally, UX designers handle the initial step. Very, very important. As a UX designer, of course, if UI is a branch of the UX, it means there is no how that UI will start before UX. It means there has to be some roles, the duties, user research, and so many things needs to happen before the UI. Notes, always remember this. Then the UI and UX design, they offer numerous benefits to IT professionals by prioritizing user satisfaction, engagement, usability, and brand perception. IT professionals can create a successful product, reduce costs, and and gain a competitive advantage and foster effective collaboration with design. This is all that we've been saying since, right? And also the same UI UX, in as much as it's beneficial to the IT professionals, is also beneficial to also business professionals, right? So the business professionals, citizen developers are not even IT kind of people, right? Our own is to look at the business. What does the business need? If you're working, for example, if you're working in an hospitality company, for example, you know that they've been using a very manual way to do their work or to carry out their operations. Now, as a citizen developer, your own is to look at the business process and try to digitalize what they're doing. In doing this, whatever you come up, if you come up with a UI that is good, a UX that is good, and whatever technology you want to use in building the in-house solution, it's not even their business. It's up to you. But in as much as you've done something that is very good, I think you've benefited from UI and UX as a business professional. If your own work, if you're a marketer, if you're a database, okay, data analyst and CI professional, but if you're a marketer, right, and you're sent to go and take some contract from the government, and you go with a very beautiful proposal, and they ask you to come and bid for this proposal or to come and defend your proposal, you do not just come with a PPT. Rather, you give them an interactive PDF where when you share to their mail, they look at the mail and you're telling them they click. Once they click on a particular business idea, there's a beautiful pop-up that comes up. So with this, you can see that you can even get more contract. And I'm not even joking, right? I'm very serious with this point because it has worked for me as well. So it's also beneficial to business. Like by focusing on customer satisfaction, conversion rate, customer retention, brand image, business professionals can gain a competitive advantage, increase efficiency, and make data-driven decisions that contributes to the success and growth of their organizations. So this is all for now. And then before we go to the next slide, that we have our projects, because we have an assignment and is advised to come up with a response to this. So before we get to that, is there any question at all? I've been talking since, so it's one for people to talk. Yeah? Any question? Or was my mic muted all this while and I was just talking?
No, it wasn't. No, it
It's
was fine.
beautiful. That would have broken my heart. Okay, David, you can talk.
Well, not really a question. Well, not even a question. I think personally, I'm satisfied, and we just look forward to our practical classes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, David. So is there anyone that wants to, sounds like a vote of thanks before item 7 normally. So is there any other person that wants to say something? Okay, even if you don't know where to raise your hand from and you want to say something, say. Okay. All right. So I think we can move forward now. That was so much. I think it would need some time to digest some of these things we've said. And hopefully on the practical time, there will be not too much talk. All we'll be doing is real project and we'll be sharing ideas. So our project and assignment, we have just one task this time around. And it will be very encouraging for all of us to participate. So the task will be to create a list of 4 websites, just 4. It's not like it's 10, 4 websites, 2 with good UX and 2 with bad UX, right? We want to see how you think. If you don't know, I'll give you an hint, right? If you're working for an organization, it's free. Don't worry, we won't even share it out. You can write to us personally. Of course, you send the assignment to our email, info@mequest.org. Tell us what you think about your organization website. Tell us what you think about your school website. You can just go. You can also screenshot an app and say, okay, this is fine, because let's start with what is existing before we start doing our project. You can even review our temporal sites, right? Because we're coming up with a new design on application and mobile application. But you can also visit our site and tell us what is not okay. And that's the one you have. You can go to Google and search for food website and try to interact with the web page, right? If you're not an IT professional, but a business professional, you can share with us a proposal and tell us what is not nice about it. I would be very happy to see someone who is going to send a data dashboard, data analyst dashboard, and tell me what is not good about it. Because if you're a business professional, your review should start with business stuff, right? Not just IT products or not just digital products. So share with us 4 websites with good UX and bad UX and explain what makes them good and bad. Keep it simple and easy to understand. And the deadline will be from 6th to 10th of August. So from tomorrow till on the 10th, before our next class, we need to see this. And remember, we're going to use 1 or 2 responses we get as a case study. And we're going to say, this is what this person sees and says, and we'll all reevaluate what the person says. So with that, we've come to the end of day 1.